Look, I am sick of watching professional wrestling.
I'm not watching the news.
Geraldo,
Mothers who love one-night stands? No, forget it.
race you to the hot tub. One of the things I was thinking about that made this a sensible thing for them to do was because he puts on the table the most important issues right now that people are afraid to talk about: Social Security, gays, and military, all stuff. He throws all of this stuff
Right
at the
up
wall in
front.
the first week and says, "Okay, prepare yourselves." You know, he says, "I'm not saying we can accomplish this today, but by God, we're going to, and just let's start at least talking about it." So I think that was a great thing.
I think it's a dumb thing because why bring up the issues if you're not going to do anything about them? If you're going to talk about them, you're just going to polarize people. So for months and months, we're going to go through nightmares.
Talk is what got us here, though. I think that
Talk's what got us here. In
No,
bed.
but I'm thinking that talking about these issues is one of the things that got Clinton elected. That is that
Yes,
people
absolutely.
got comfortable with ideas. You know, people are at least willing to talk about gays in the military.
Right, well, we discussed this personally. We decided that actually Oprah Winfrey has a lot to answer for.
Well,
People
what do you
like
think?
that.
In
Well,
which area?
What we were saying, well, just the fact that it's become a daily event that you turn on the television and you see these terrible things.
Mothers who love one-night stands.
Right, not just that, but you know, somebody's poor homosexual lovers who are rejected by their parents-in-law. And all of a sudden it becomes this very normal thing that you're
that's the
seeing.
right-
But isn't that good?
It is.
It's great.
The
But
normal-
That's
normal
exactly.
not normal enough to stop this rubbish.
Right,
We're gonna-
but it's going
We're
to
talking
get
about an
normaler.
incremental
Yeah,
process.
I think
Normaler.
it certainly does. It makes people, yeah.
I was an English
That's really what
teacher.
it's about. Now,
Me too. Very good.
now how do we get from the normal to the abnormal?
Normaler. Oh, the really abnormal?
The really abnormal.
What, like having a dog in the bed?
That's not abnormal. You bring your dog.
You're
in.
right. Hello, Gracie. This is Grace.
Grace is just a new dog.
Grace is
And-
lovely.
Grace
Grace
owns
is such
Joel.
a showbiz phony because she's been in frenzy for the last 24 hours.
And now all
the
of a sudden-
camera hits her and she's, Ava Gardner died or something.
Don't believe a word of it, viewers.
Don't scowl. We'll give you wrinkles.
Grace is a
Don't stop
smiley.
barking at me.
And Grace, who do you own? Who's
Joel.
attached to you? This is Joel.
Yeah.
No strings. The day that we take it one day at a time. The day I wake up and one of us finds that we don't care for one another.
That's it.
You're free to leave,
That's
right?
what we believe.
You're out.
We
No
believe in
rings.
love.
That's
No-
nice. That's
yeah.
nice.
And Gareth,
You like
if I
the
look like I'm getting ready to turn or kick you, which is something I do sometimes, like give people's attention, go,
Oh, great. So I have to
Defend yourself as well as everything else. We normally have a cattle prod for miles.
well, Gareth is going to get us from the normalization of things like this to the abnormalization of everything, which,
Well, first of all, we want to see his T-shirt.
boing.
Boing boing, the world's greatest neurozine.
And what is a neurozine, please?
Well, I mean, it's just a coinage, which, neuro, it's a magazine that talks about new ideas and has fun with your brain, basically tries to stretch the limits of the kinds, it was what we were talking about with Oprah Winfrey, where I still think that's what the sorts of things that happens on mainstream media is very much what they think will sell based on sex or violence or family disputes,
And our tolerance is increasing dramatically, I think.
Our
Like
tolerance
the,
is increasing, but I'm
I think
thinking, let's go through some sort of cybernetic view of Oprah Winfrey, and you get to where you can put on you can put on the virtual reality machine and put your arms around one of her trunk-like thighs. Oprah, you can get back on the Optifast again, or you can feel the laughter of the audience rippling over you. I mean, isn't this what virtual reality is about? Like sitting in your house in front of your computer and rippling through files in a library somewhere, or or making love with Sophia Loren, or traveling to the moon, or
Yeah, that's
And you really feel
the
it.
sexy parts of it. That's the parts of it
part
that are
I'm
getting the media attention. I mean, what we were talking about earlier with where this stuff comes from is research in that NASA was doing in terms of being able to do long distance manipulations through unmanned space flight, where you
Right.
can send a robotic craft to Mars, and then the astronauts are actually home on Earth in virtual reality gear, and they're interacting with a virtual Mars, and then their actions are translated to the robot on Mars, which is actually manipulating the stuff. That's the kind of thing that virtual reality will actually be seriously used for medicine. They're now doing in medical schools. They're now having people do virtual surgery. So a bunch of the surgery that one would do, you don't actually have to do on people. You can do in a virtual environment, which gives you a lot of the real variables.
plus you can do some really fun things with the computer, like you hit the wrong thing and the guy can go, ow!
Yeah, right. What was that?
You know, there's a new thing, Joel. If you see that thing about the movie where you can control the ending or watch characters change, interfilm, which is something between cyber and film,
yeah.
and they were had a
Sounds like
review of it.
sheer madness to me.
Well, it really exactly. But this had the people running around in the movie theater so excited that they could change what happened to a character.
Well, they haven't. Hollywood hasn't allowed us to have an unhappy ending since about 1980.
I know. What would you do?
So it's just such a dream to be able to change the
Miserable
ending.
ending, kill them. I remember when I saw that movie where the ladies in the house and the guys, Julia Roberts, and the guys in the house.
Sleeping with the enemy.
And I was saying, kill her. She's so stupid.
Right. She tries on one more hat. I'm going to hit the screen. You
And I
know?
thought, okay, the lights are off in the house. The
But
man
she's
is in the
disappeared,
house,
but she's
and she's
disappeared.
looking for him.
The wonderful thing
Come
about
out,
life
come
is that
out.
no matter how awful things are, if you're patient, they go away.
Yeah,
and now
right.
there are big articles on her. You know, what is it, People Magazine this week?
Yeah.
Where is Julia
Where
Roberts?
is she, for heaven's
I
sake?
mean,
Why does anyone care?
and why does anyone care? She'll come back, and I mean, you know, it'll just...
And what?
It'll
And
happen.
what?
And what?
Oh, Miles,
she'll come back
brace
in
yourself.
virtual
She'll be back any
reality.
minute, right? You'll be sleeping with
With
her.
someone who can act. We'll get someone who can act to program the Julia Roberts.
Who do you like, whose name on a movie makes you go see it? I have to go see this.
Michelle Pfeiffer.
Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yes.
Why? You think she's really great? I think she's great.
I think she's... I can't remember an actress who is so talented and so beautiful and so phony, so untheatrical. If you
Yeah.
compare her, like, we saw Russian House, which was a boring movie.
Yeah.
But her doing a Russian accent compared to Meryl Streep, where you can hear the, what do you call it, Berlitz cards flipping in
Right.
her head. I'm just amazed that no matter what she plays, she seems to go so far inside, and she seems to have very little ego. Of course, if I looked like her, I'd be nothing but a creature of ego. You know? And Tuesday Wald was like that. I think she may still be.
And
Tuesday
very
Wald
much the
was-
same kind of look, too.
I think so we're kind of getting what I like.
Yeah, I got you.
Stephen
Frighteningly
Ray,
beautiful.
actually,
Yeah.
is the same sort of way. He's so understated and so cerebral.
Would you know him from other things? You must know him from other things
Yeah.
besides his current hit.
Yeah, Stephen Ray. He's an Irish actor. He's currently on Broadway with Someone to Watch Over Me, which I saw, which is, if you can imagine, 3 men chained to a wall being fascinating for 2.5 hours. He
Well, if
delivers...
I had a whip.
Please, no.
This is not back in reality. We're back in the... Have to stay there.
Yeah, right.
Your program.
Speaking of Berlitz,
World
we were talking about wetware earlier.
What
Which
is
is
wetware?
Wetware is where you can take a microchip and attach it, make it a good contact with your brain. Of course, they don't have these yet. And instantly be fluent in French. Or you take the Encyclopedia
Fluid in
Britannica.
French.
Fluid.
Wetware.
And then you get a good contact there, or you get the socket and you plug it into
No,
your
you're
computer.
joking.
And I'm not joking. This is part of this new article in Time, and it's part of what Gareth is going to debunk for us now.
Yes, right.
So, Gareth.
First of all, I'll debunk your definition in that wetware is just means your brain. It was a word that was coined by Rudy Rucker. It just means, gray matter, your nervous system.
Oh, so
Wetware.
this is
But-
the wetware is already here.
Yes,
Oh.
but what you're talking about is the brain implants, which is something that is mentioned in the Time magazine article, this week's Time, which had a cover story on cyberpunk, mentions this idea of brain implants, which is, I was just shocked when they, in the body of their article, they say, it's a near future tech, or they referred to it in such a way that it sounds like it's, coming
Tomorrow.
10 years from now, or
Right.
whatever, where I just did research for an article about it, and it's decades away. It's mainly that sort of technology is going to be available for giving a crude type of sight to the blind, or improving hearing for people who are partially deaf or even a crude
they
type
do
of
have
hearing
something
form.
like that now. They do have a
Yeah, they're called
implant.
cochlear implants, and there's like
Exactly.
7,000 people in the world who are wired. They're
And it
jacked
goes into
in.
a computer, and the computer
Yeah.
translates vibrations, and then
Exactly,
they have
yeah.
found out the part of the brain that does that. But I guess that's
Well, it just goes into the ear. It replaces the cochlear hairs, which are the little hairs that vibrate. So they just have little electrodes that vibrate against the same area. So it's pretty crude. I mean, one woman described it as it sounds like a garbage disposal in her ear. That's about as good as the
at least you hear
quality.
something,
but,
right?
Pretty
but
much
you can
tell
hear
when
something. You
people
can
are
hear like a
talking.
horn beeping.
You hear what our
Get up-
moms heard all day long for their whole lives.
It's sort of like the Snoopy thing, isn't it? Wah, 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 wah.
The
But
whole world
that's-
sounds like that.
It's real. That's real far future technology, and it's part of the misconceptions that people have about technology, where people really like virtual reality is a perfect example of when virtual reality came on the market. The hype got so far ahead of the
actual-
technology, of the actual research, that now there's this big sort of depression going on within the whole virtual reality community and the virtual reality researchers, where now everyone's kind of bored with it, and they go and they do the virtual reality thing at Springfield Mall, and
Exactly.
it's not really as great
What's the
as
bottleneck in virtual reality? It just memory or
all different, all kinds of things. But yeah, the processing speed is a
Exactly.
big thing, where you move your head, like me moving my head. You move your head, and
Perfect for you.
and it has to. The computer has to reflush the frame, as you move, and
like a
it
liquid
just
screen
it does it
television.
kind of. It's very funky. But the funny thing about that is that the brain is actually quite easy to fool. When they first started doing virtual reality at NASA, they just did black and white wireframe images, and they had that started to need spotters for people, because people would put this gear on, and it was so immersive that they really thought they were in whatever the reality is they were looking at, and they would like run into, they'd start running, or they'd start, they'd do the command that meant fly, and they'd start flying through this environment, and they would fall over or whatever.
Wow.
So it's amazing that the brain is that easy to
That's
trick.
a good thing, though. I guess really.
Except in an election year, it's not so good.
Not this year. It
The
was.
brain is easy to fool.
You couldn't say that for the last one.
So now tell us about Boing Boing.
Well, Boing Boing, I brought a copy with me.
Has a
This
naked woman
is,
on the cover. That's all good magazines.
What? Yeah,
A
right.
naked woman on the cover.
Exactly. Boing Boing is a magazine that grew out of what's called the zine scene, which the weekend section last week did a cover story on it. And a friend of mine started doing it on his computer. He was an electrical engineer. And he started doing it on his home computer and started sending it out just to friends. And the thing mushroomed, and now it's attempting to be a regular mainstream magazine. We have about 12,000 readers. It's now out of LA. He's moved to LA. And we just try to cover the kinds of things that the mainstream media doesn't cover. We do a lot of coverage of high technology, but from a very humorous
Like
perspective.
home surgery
Like
on
home
your
surgery.
pets.
Yes,
Home surgery on your cat.
that's a
Have you read
great,
that
that's a
article yet?
great article.
We might do a little Dr. Kilgore show here.
Give it a little brain implant. It's fluent in French. Can't speak, but
Do you want some
she could understand French.
wetware surgery?
It's sort of a
any
high-tech
wet
Mad magazine, really. is
I
a
noticed
good
William
way
Gaines
to
is in the front.
describe it. Yes, we do a
hero.
tribute to William Gaines in this
Yeah.
issue.
Yeah, great man.
Yeah, he was a great man, I mean, to me, cyberpunk seems to some extent like, like Joel, your generation, my generation, put together. We had this wild countercultural thing. And cyberpunk is 30 years later, this extension of it is still trying to find some way to rebel, It's
Where everything
it's
gets
like,
co-opted, so it
we're
gets
gonna
so
the ultimate
difficult.
Yeah,
the
exactly.
ultimate rebellion is we're going to create a reality that
Getting a bath?
getting
Grace,
Oh, I'm so
honey.
sorry. Grace, you're very sweet.
Oh, come on now.
is
Not really
to
into
say that
girls.
No
we're going
sex,
to change
please, we're
reality.
British.
We're going to take. What was she doing?
She was giving her a bath.
Lucky dog. It is to say that we're not even going to live in your world. We're going to create this
Oh, that's
new
right. I
world
had the
with these
lickings broken
headsets and these things, and you won't be able to come. We're going to be partying out here with the smart drugs and the virtual reality and
Yeah,
the ecstasy.
there's a part of that. Yeah, the cyberpunk part of it, where like the Time magazine piece. Actually, most of what they're talking about is not cyberpunk, which is basically a youth movement which grew out of a science fiction, like a subgenre in the 1980s. William Gibson's book Neuromancer started it, and that's very much youth culture and has that aspect of rebellion and so forth. But a lot of the stuff that you're talking about in terms of, we have our own world and we're, it's something that we understand and you don't. It's something that's shared on a much larger basis with anybody who lives in cyberspace, which is this globally interconnected computer network which now encircles the planet. There are 14 to 15 million people who use something on a daily basis called the internet,
Right.
which is all of the computers interlinked.
I saw somebody doing that. They called up a library in Germany, and it was 3 seconds later.
Exactly.
They were
I
looking
do
at
it
a
all
long
the time.
list of
Yeah, I zip into the University of Tokyo computer and grab a file and go into Georgia Tech and go into the MIT computer, and I spend a huge amount of my time this way now. I work there. All the magazines that I write for, I query the articles through the nets. I talk to them about how the article is going. I upload the articles. And I play there, I socialize there, I meet.
This is like Dune. You know the creatures in Dune that came down in the big trains, that would sort of will themselves across the universe?
The navigators.
The navigators,
Yeah.
and they would like go into the ether. Did you see the movie Dune? Did you like it?
The movie? Oh God, come on, the movie was horrible.
I was being too polite.
When they get standing
I like
there,
the big floating guy.
The big
That's
floating
the only
guy.
thing I like.
Yeah, Baron Harkonnen. That
Yeah,
was the
that's
only. I
very
mean,
funny.
we spent the entire time laughing
Getting the oil all over
hysterically.
us.
Well, they shot hours and hours of it, so we saw like a cut down,
Yeah.
like about
But then
2
they
hours.
then they re-edited, and the re-edited
It got
was
worse.
equally as bad. Yeah.
That's right.
But yeah, there is, and this is something that we were talking about. This whole idea of becoming more and more mental, and with me and my physical
I can't get much
situation.
more mental.
What?
No, he's talking about cerebral.
Oh, I get it.
Yes,
I get it.
neuros.
I thought you meant like mental.
Well, that too. But for someone like me who's handicapped, who I have this profound arthritis, so for me to have that way of being able to work and play
Exactly.
and do all of these things without ever having to leave my computer is an incredible thing for me.
You are a cyborg. I mean, to some extent, you have.
Absolutely.
You're
I've
definitely
actually written, and I did a
cybernetic
presentation
organism.
where I tried to convince everyone that I was actually a cyborg.
Well, is a guy that has to commute 50 miles a cyborg because he gets in his car and he drives? I mean, he couldn't walk that way. We've had a man-machine interface for a long time.
Absolutely.
But
it's just
but
getting
yours
It's getting more efficient.
it's getting
here.
more
Yes,
efficient,
not
and it's getting more close to the bone. I mean, the
Sure.
whole idea about cyberpunk to
completely
me is the
blew
idea, or cyberculture. The word, the cyber part of it comes from cyborg in the word cyberpunk or cyberculture, which means human-machine interlinking, intermarriage.
Like the $6 Million Man. It can make you run fast.
Exactly, and I think that that really is what we are becoming, or what we are already. The technology has gotten so intimate with us. You take the computer, or you take the television camera. The television camera used to be something that TV studios had. Not every single person in their home, which
Right.
now you can hold them in the palms of your hands.
And do special effects with them.
And the technology to put out a magazine like this
And you
would
edit
have
it
just
from here
been
to California.
absolutely exorbitant, how many years ago? And now it's something that you can do that on your desktop.
So where do you see this going? I mean, you
If
see
only
the-
people could read.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I know.
You
Or
see the
post to whatever
ads on the
society.
telly for this new AT&T thing where you don't even have to go to the grocery store anymore. You can
The
just like
OptiScan.
Yes.
run the little optical eye
Exactly.
over. I mean, are we never going to interact with people? I mean, is that where it's going, or I mean?
It
I
gives
don't know,
us
it's cut crime down,
No,
won't we?
but see, the whole idea to me of what cyber culture is a group of people that have come to the realization that these are the principal issues. As we move forward into the future, we have to start making those active decisions about how exactly the questions that you're raising. We are becoming more and more mental. We are spending more and more time in our home, in these
'Cause nobody's
computer
working.
networks, disembodied. There's a great
Or
degree to
else-
which we're becoming disembodied. So if that is the drift, then what of that do you want to choose? What's your choice in the matter? And like this is a product that I did called Beyond Cyberpunk, a do-it-yourself guide to the future, which covers a lot of the same stuff that Boing Boing covers, and a lot of the stuff that was covered in the Time magazine. And the whole idea of this is to give people the resources to start thinking about this stuff and to try to actively work
choices.
towards their own future rather than, rather than accepting a future that's foisted upon you. When you talk about the media, one thing that all of this represents is decentralizing media to the point where anybody can do something like this and release this. This is 300 pages of information that I have either written or gleaned off of these computer networks. So this is a total home publishing thing. This is a total home publishing thing. So it's really decentralizing media to the point where these online networks are like daily newspapers that are created by the users.
So do you think this was happening with film too,
I
Joel?
was just getting worried that we were getting ready to get
Sorry.
into computer speak, and
Well, that's more
I could feel
interesting.
myself glazing over.
Sorry.
Going
I
into
was just,
the zone.
I was just
have a
really
tendency
getting
to-
into it. No, I was also thinking about what you were saying. The computers revolutionized human relationships and mating behaviors, and I'd like to discuss this, if I may.
Yes,
Well,
please do.
please.
That in the normal historical event of meeting people, you would see them if they were attractive to you. Then you might proceed to get to know them. How would you like a drink? You know,
Right.
do you come here often? What's your style? Blah, blah,
What's your
blah.
style?
On a computer, the last thing you know about a person is how they look. You talk with them. You discuss the things you care about. You discuss whatever the other stuff you care about. And finally, you meet. I mean, it's a complete inversion. And
Yeah, it's fascinating.
but what a better way to meet someone than to know something about them inside before
Right.
outside, because usually, especially in a media culture like this, we can never get past
So
the
superficial,
outside. So I
yeah.
mean, only someone who will bring a bunch of strangers into bed, is
I
able
was
to
thinking,
get beyond the surface.
you meet somebody beautiful, and you fall in love, and she turns out to be an incredible bitch. But you hammer every single thing about her into this beautiful package that you've got in your mind, and you get married, and it completely falls apart. She leaves you. She runs away.
I
He's
smell
not talking
some
about you.
autobiography.
No, I'm not talking
No, no.
But what I'm talking about is
No,
if you go the other way
Exactly.
and you love what they think about and talk about and who they really are inside, and then when you finally meet them, it's like the least important thing in the world.
It
you know?
really is,
She's
and that's
beautiful.
happened. That's happened to
Or
me.
she may be beautiful because of the fact that
Exactly,
you know. I
you
mean,
know
this
her.
sounds like corny
Or
stuff,
he,
but it's
or he
really
may be
true.
That's all right.
He,
I like-
she, what?
I like corny
Yeah.
stuff.
No, but I guess what I really mean is that you can. It's too trite to talk about, and if anyone tried this in a movie, I'd slam their butts. But, it is finally, obviously, some kind of inner beauty, spiritual beauty that makes us keep long relationships.
Because it really does work from the outside, from the inside out.
It does.
Which,
I
I mean,
mean-
it happens to me repeatedly. I mean, I do spend years getting to know people virtually. I'm a member.
That's
I'm a
wonderful.
member of what's called a virtual community in Sausalito, California. It's called The Well. I've been there on there every single day since 1986. I talk to many people there on a daily basis. The whole thing is divided up into conferences. So there's a book conference and a movie conference and a sex conference and a relationships conference and a child rearing conference. And so you absolutely know everyone's opinion on everything.
Have you met anybody from that?
And when you meet them, it's really fascinating because of course, they never look like what you imagine them to look like. But for people that you have gotten this really deep fondness for, it doesn't matter
No.
if they totally don't meet your expectations.
Your physical expectations.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about something because you told me when we talked on the phone, you said you went to see 3 movies last year, or you just reviewed 3 movies.
No, I only went to a theater 3 times. After I've been writing weekly, in both senses, in D.C. since 1966. I mean, I've been on. I couldn't even give you the litany. Everything from Washingtonian, not at the bottom, to things like Newsworks and Georgetown Spectator and D.C. Gazette. I've always had a job since 1966. And last year, the movies, I don't think it's me, but the movies just got too stupid to endure. I mean,
Yeah.
can you imagine sitting down to write 1,200 words on Kindergarten Cop? And they're supposed to be intelligent, you know. It used to be there was a run of smart movies, and then the dopey ones, and you could do a dopey one every now and then because you knew next week
You'd do something
Alan
great.
Renee was coming out, you know, or whatever. Even, I suppose, the movie that most people think is the year's best movie, Crying Game, even that one, which is certainly an absorbing movie, and you're with it every minute. When you think about it afterwards, it really has almost nothing to say about all the subjects it raises about gender, politics, whatever. And I mean, that's probably the year's smartest movie.
You mean
in
nothing new
English.
to say?
No, nothing at all to say. I mean, it brings them all up as part of a melodrama, and then you get a big shoot 'em out, a little jail scene, and I'm not going to talk about the thing I'm not allowed to talk about.
Right.
But, I mean, it raises a lot of important issues, but I don't think it has anything
But I think it's such a
consequential.
relief to finally see something that's,
that's what I mean.
not
No,
enormous.
it's completely. I have just seen, and I hope this reaches the public in time to save them. There's a movie. There was a Dutch movie called The
Vanishing.
Vanishing.
God,
The
brilliant.
remake of The Vanishing, which is done by the same director,
Kiefer
What's
Sutherland.
amazing
is
about it.
so stupid and horrible that, I mean, I've been writing about it all day, and I lost my scarf in the theater. I was so eager to get out of it. And I think The Vanishing was the original,
Dutch film.
virtually a perfect movie, and a movie that is completely terrifying. I mean, you're still shuddering.
Yeah.
Not one drop of blood, not one bit of I mean, not that makes a movie good, because give me some blood, give me some nudity,
Yeah.
but this movie managed to terrify you without, in the most chaste and austere, underneath this summary thing, something terrible is happening that you can't
Right.
see. This movie, buckets of blood. Well, a happy ending. Can you imagine a happy ending? There is a happy ending in the new version of The Vanishing. You know, I was thinking it's like Willie Loman popping out of a Death in the Salesman.
No, just
Happy
kidding.
days are here. Can you? I mean, because if there was ever a work of art that depends upon every step moves toward this shattering denouement, it's that movie. Only Hollywood. And then what do you think about the guy who created this movie and comes to Hollywood
What was he
and
thinking?
defiles it? Well, obviously he needs.
What was he thinking? Yeah,
Might have
all
been
of a
that, or
sudden.
maybe he's real, or
didn't-
maybe he has some real personal problems that we don't know about.
Didn't he make money, though, with The Vanishing? I mean, it was here for a long time in Washington.
Yeah, but I doubt it. A movie like that will show in maybe 20 or 30 cities around the
So
country.
is that maybe
in tiny-
how can we solve that problem, perhaps, with our virtual reality? I mean, you know, if we...
That-
Oh, God.
If, no, but I mean,
Well,
if,
yes.
if globally everyone's plugging into their computer saying, oh my God, go and see this film, it's fantastic.
Yeah, anybody
and the
watching this
demand
now, if they
rises-
could ring up their computer and see the original Vanishing, would do it instead of having to run off to the video store. The original one's on
That will
Cinemax. It's on Cinemax this month. I should
Oh, good.
plug
Get
that.
Cinemax.
Yeah, I got it. I got it last night. But for people who want to see I would never want anyone to see the
new
remake
one.
first because they couldn't possibly.
Such a disappointment.
Because the ending, the terrible thing is in the new one, the ending happens 30 minutes before the end of the movie. And you wonder, well, then what can they do? Because there's nowhere to go after the last shot of the original. And you do find out there's plenty of places to go.
Dreadful places,
Plenty of
places that
blood,
should
right?
never have been visited.
I mean, especially, to give you just a clue, a woman with a spade digging in the ground shouting, "Be alive, be alive." And
You look shocked.
And wouldn't you, I mean, you can see what if you know this movie and love it, you can see what I mean, you feel like you've been personally assaulted.
Well, here's the problem. See, we get interfilm, like we were talking about before, an interactive film thing.
Okay.
And you got
Get your choice of
an
endings.
average American audience, and half of them are like Lucy on one side, who've seen the original Vanishing, and they want it to go the way the original Vanishing does. He's going to die in the box or whatever. And the people on the other side, no, we want a happy ending. We like Kiefer Sutherland. I liked all those other movies, and they're hitting their hammers, and the other side's
Does
hitting their
anyone like
hammers.
Kiefer Sutherland? Have you ever met a person like Kiefer Sutherland?
No, I guess I
Anyone
haven't, to tell you
ever?
the truth.
He's made about 30 movies. No one liked.
I like his father, but I guess
Well, we're not talking about his father. I like my father. You know? I don't go
he
see him.
squandered all of his father's goodwill, I think, just doing sort of bad movies. But he was
I mean,
good
he looks
in
like a
that Vampire
blancmange
movie.
and he can't act. And I mean, and yet there are people who keep getting
No, I
used in
can't.
movies because no one can think of anyone else.
It's such a shame, and it's all such an inbred little world, says she, the indignant actress. It's, you know, it's... And
Well, I'd be indignant if I were an actor and I went to the movies and saw.
you'd be pleased because it's such garbage and you could do better.
No, I'd be outraged,
Yeah, it
thinking
is
that in my
outrageous.
sleep I can do better. I mean, we were talking about people we like, but there are very few actresses, I think, or actors that one feels. Who would you go to see a movie because they were in? That's a contorted
Stephen
grammar.
Ray, which I already
Stephen
said.
Ray, but
I've
he-
seen his stage work, I think that's
Well, he was also in, what's his
Angel.
name's first film?
Yes.
The IRA picture.
I've seen
Yes,
very few
Angel,
movies. I
it's
saw
called Angel.
Dracula like you did last year. That was,
Yeah, nice transitions.
dreadful.
Yeah, well, I mean,
I couldn't wait for the scenes to end so I could watch the transitions, which was pretty.
well, I just like the whole thing. I just like the whole concept of like you're gonna get a little bit of everything in this movie. He's
Although Gary Oldman,
yeah,
I
Gary
must
Oldman.
admit,
Oh, he's good.
did you see an interview with him?
I have
Best
seen.
actors interview
This
when
is
they were
where we're
asking
gonna
him
end. You
about,
tell the story, and
about
this will be the last one.
okay, they're asking about Dracula, and they said, you know, Mr. Oldman, how on earth did you do this? I mean, how did you get inside that character and really become him? He said, well, you know, once you got all that bloody latex on your face, it takes about 2 hours to put it on. You just do what you can.
I do that. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, jeez.
Just
Well,
sort of us.
he
really.
did act though. I mean,
Oh, it's brilliant.
I
He's
guess.
brilliant.
Well, who
But the
knows?
film is
Maybe
Who
the
dreadful.
latex
knows?
was acting.
Who knows? Was it he?
But it's just like
Who was
from
under
Slumber
there?
Party.
It had to be him because he's the only one with a weird face like that. I just wanted to say goodbye from Slumber Party.
Yeah,
and
we do
thanks
what
for
we
watching.
can.
Yes, we do what we
We
can.
get in the bed and we do what we
Once you
can.
get these pajamas on, it's just you do what you can, you know?
Say bye, Gracie. Say
Yeah.
bye-bye, Gracie.
Say goodnight, Gracie.
Say goodnight,
Good night,
Gracie. Good night, Gracie.
Anyway, back to art movies.